All right, welcome back to round number 2 here of Portland Paper Pauper Tournament. I am Travis Cooper hanging out with,
David Nielsen here.
and yeah, we have our last commentator that was in the booth hanging out and playing a mountain right now. And we have Luis Herbosa playing Burn against Steven Sun that is on Rainbow Tron.
So it looks like a nice creature to start for Burn. That's kind of what they want to get repeatable damage source down and then run over Tron before they do really big things. Like any Burn versus Tron in any format. Let's see.
All right, that was a Get Through Lava Mancer hanging out for Herbosa, and Steve just playing a Tron Land and Expedition map. Now this is a pretty unfavorable matchup for Tron's side of things here, especially game 1. There's not a ton of removal, and most of Herbie's creatures are going to be able to deal damage without attacking, or be able to get in damage before Steve is able to start fogging stuff here.
Yep, and he looks like Louis just added a Thermo Alchemist, so he's got...
Oh boy.
He's going to get 1 extra damage on each of his burn spells probably, so yeah, this should be relatively quick.
And Chain Lightning there, untapping the Alchemist.
Ooh. Yep, it looks like...
How many 1-mana spells do we have?
Saw at least a Shard Volley in there, so... Okay, so we got...
Light up the stage?
Yep,
Yeah.
and there was definitely Shard Volley in hand too, so it looks
Okay.
like at least... What, that's 4 times 3
Oh, Skewer the
there.
Critics there, sorry.
Skewer the Critics. Oh, and then he's going to do the Hasty Get 2 Lava Runner.
Ah. I got my new spectacle cards mixed up there.
Yeah. What Burn needed was more lightning bolts, and it's definitely working out there. That was a very high damage turn. Can loot.
It's
Steven,
hot.
yeah, Steven is already down to 7 here and has played a map and gotten a land. So I think, yeah, like you were saying, Burn gets out to a really fast start in game 1, and Tron does not have a lot they can really do. I'm trying to think. Steven beat me last round, and I can't think of any cards in his deck that are fast enough to stop this draw from Louis. They're just... They're big and powerful, but you need that 7 mana online to do something, and I don't think he's going to get that.
I guess you have a couple Pulse of Marasas to gain back some life, but I mean, Luis is able to just, especially with these with the lava runners and with the creatures on board, is going to be able to make that a pretty ineffective strategy here.
Yeah, the repeatable damage from all those creatures. Yep, puts him down to 6. Yeah, and not even having access to green, or if he needs to make green mana, he'd have to filter it through that shores, so he can't even pulse this turn even if that were in his hand, so it's real rough. Oh, Moment's Peace though. That's a good one.
Get a fog.
Yeah.
So Moment's Peace is a fog with flashback, effectively. Which it feels like there's a couple builds of Burn and Pauper, some of which just play all the Thermo Alchemist type cards, and some of which are playing the Lava Runner as well.
Gotcha. It looks like, double checking whether it was all damage or combat damage there before he did the Thermo Alchemist.
And it's just combat damage, so it is not the greatest card against Burn when you have a bunch of Thermo Alchemist.
Yep. And the Shard Volley I mentioned earlier gets the untap on the Thermo Alchemist. So yeah, not lethal thanks to Moment's Peace, and Moment's Peace flashes back for 3, right? So he's got that online to stop combat damage again, but
is just going to be dead to this Thermo Alchemist.
yep. I think the other card in hand was a Searing Blaze, so he can use that on his own creature to get an untap trigger to get damage off the Thermo Alchemist, but he doesn't even need that. He's just gonna ping him.
We're going to get a pretty lightning fast game here.
There is a pulse in Steven's hand there.
Oh.
So that, okay, he decides it doesn't really matter, but he did have the pulse online there finally. So what are they going to bring in from each side here for this matchup?
Okay, well, it looks like for sideboard, Burn is sitting on a couple of Electrickeries. We got 3 Martyrs of Ashes. We have a couple, all 4 Keldon Marauders, Smash to Smithereens, and Molten Rains. I'd imagine your Molten Rains are going to be really strong in this matchup.
Yep.
And I mean, the deck's already pretty good as it's configured, so that might
Mhm.
be all you really need to
So
bring
yeah, I
in.
was gonna say let's look at the main. Is there anything else worth pulling out? I guess the Searing Blaze. The Tron creatures tend to be pretty big. Mole Drifter is the only. I guess Mole Drifter and Seagate Oracle are both ones that Searing Blaze can take out. But that kind of seems like the main deck card that is the least good. That's if you're shaving numbers.
Yeah, and I imagine it, once you start having targets for Searing Blaze, Molten Rain would be the better card to have regardless. So the Searing Blaze seems like a pretty safe cut to throw in with Molten Rain, because Steve's going to be flickering those anyways, usually. Um,
Any consideration to smash the Smithereens because Tron uses a lot of artifacts to filter their mana. Is that worth it or just not efficient enough for the slots?
I could see maybe throwing in a smash for the fourth Searing Blaze since you only have three Molten Rains on the sideboard. I wouldn't fault someone for doing that.
Makes sense.
Always gonna be a target. It's gonna deal some damage there. As far as
Tron side of
Tron
things.
side of things, we
Look
have
for things that say gain life or let's see.
pull up a sideboard here. Once Irradiated Arrows, Circle Protection Blue, Circle Protection Red, Hydroblast, Pyroblast, Ancient Grudge, and Moment's Peace. So,
Okay.
I
7 cards there that all say red or prevent damage. So I like the look of those ones.
yeah, Circle Protection Red can be a pretty unbeatable card if it's able to be deployed early, and
Hmm.
Hydroblast, of course, is going to counter anything that Herbie's going to play or destroy any permanents.
Yeah. Just the 1-for-1 trade when you're trying to survive to get Tron online seems like a really good deal. And then like the Moments Piece showed there, that bought him a fair amount of time. So looks like he's got the tools to buy him time. What comes out?
Stonehorn Dignitary doesn't really do much in the matchup. Fogging an attack step is not that meaningful, and just attacking for one isn't really going to win you the game. So that's probably an out, and then I'm kind of into just taking all the fog effects out as well.
Mm. Gotcha, because they're not relying on the creatures too much as a more pure burn deck. Because we only have what the lava runners that attack out of his deck.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
All
So
right, it looks like start is out here, and Steve on turn two having two different Tron pieces and a cantrip, and Luis just firing off a lightning bolt at the end of Steve's turn.
and we see the curse come down. So that's nice repeatable damage that doesn't rely on combat and can't get fogged. So that makes sense. Pulling out the bonus pieces there.
Nothing like getting a curse put on you.
And I can see a pulse hanging out in the Tron hand. And I don't know if I see Tron lands. Okay, no Tron lands yet. So it looks like Tron is just trying to get set up here still.
I was really expecting there to be a circle of protection, but we did not get that.
Yeah, I'm wondering what were the cards that kept forced him to keep that hand. I guess 2 Tron pieces and some nice setup is pretty good. And here we've got the compulsive research, I think.
Drawing 3 cards, we're going to discard 2 unless we discard a land.
And he's got a land lined up there. Nice. And now he's got a Marasa target online too, so that's a later play if he needs to gain some life back up. Probably not his most favorite target, but gets it online.
Have you ever cast a curse?
In Limited I have, and in EDH I have. I do not think I've ever done it in a non-limited sanctioned match of Magic.
Okay.
So I'm not a curse expert here. So this one seems
I've
to
cast a
look-
Knight of Souls Betrayal
Oh.
before.
Yep, that's I've had that cast on me. Definitely, I was doing something with tokens, and then I wasn't all of a sudden. Oh, we've got a. Is that a which one is that? Is that the repeal? Hydroblast. Thank you.
It's a reprinted art of Hydroblast there.
That's right. I'm used to the old arts because I am old.
Oh wow.
Dexterity error there. Forbidden Alchemy played instead of the Hydroblast when he clearly intended to Hydroblast. So
Okay.
nice. The versatility of destroying your red permanent really playing off there because enchantments can be kind of hard to deal with. Even.
They don't print cards like this anymore.
Yep. Yup. Just a catch-all answer. I wonder what Luis is. Oh, I guess while he's tapped out of colored mana is a good time to get some other spells to resolve as a burn player.
And these Hydroblast and Power Blast are especially good when you have like prowess creatures are creatures that untap with spells being cast because you don't actually have to have a blue permanent targeted. You can
Ooh,
just target anything. But we're getting a double. Whoa.
one-sided Armageddon for a total of 8 damage. And yeah, the board is clear. Can Burn get a flawless victory from its own side? It puts Steven down to 6, though. So that's 2-bolt range. So if his hand has any land in it, his top deck is going to be pretty good. That's a very aggressive line. I'm interested to see if that'll pay off.
I guess Luis really didn't want anything else to get hydroblasted.
But it's definitely now, without anything in play, getting that pulse off, going back up to 12.
That's
That,
quite the reset.
yeah. 12 life against 20 life and a single mountain. Burn Burn doesn't really need a lot of lands, but more than one is usually ideal. On
And Steve is going to eventually be able to start returning the pulse with a mnemonic wall, maybe draw another one off this Mole Drifter. And this is the point in the game where Tron really wants to get to, that they're starting to utilize a lot of mana and do double, triple spell turns.
Yep, it's definitely taking advantage of how much mana that deck can produce. And even gaining one more off the blue-green dual land and going on the beatdown. So yeah, like you're saying, it looks like Tron is really coming online. I'm not sure what other payoffs Steven has here, but I don't think it's going to take too much to establish a lock from his side.
And Steve just needs to start putting in some of those creatures with a little bit paltry power and toughness into play. Just swarm the board.
Yep. And any of the recursion or blink that his Tron deck can do will really turn the screws on Louis here while he tries to get back up to enough mana to cast all his burn spells.
Say this Rainbow Tron and the blue-white Flicker decks are some of the most like grindy decks that are really disheartening once you reach the mid game and you haven't won. It's
Yep.
You might not lose soon, but you're probably going to be losing when you're on the other side of that.
My second game against Steven, I was locked out of 3 combat steps in one turn by him, and that's when I decided to scoop because there was just no way I could get back into it. Oh, there's a circle protection red showing up. In terms of locking things out of the game. Oh! I think the Rift Bolt went upstairs. Yep, there we go. Down to 10.
So basically, Steven doesn't have to do anything else except leave his mana untapped to win this game.
Yes, he has more mana than... Okay. Putting him down to 7. And I'm... Yep, there we go. Even if he plays it out, I don't think he was going to get any more of them. Scooping to the Circle of Protection red.
Yes, we do get to play with some pretty powerful cards. But, you know, Circle Protection Red, modern legal as well.
I always forget that the protection circles are legal. When Burn really rises up, we'll know the tools we need to look to keep it in check. Nice. So that basically went exactly how Steven would want a sideboard a game to do, is not a super aggressive start out of Burn, able to establish his mana and get some of his engine pieces online. And the Hydroblast turn, being entertaining as it was kind of just showing Louis trying to get the game over as quickly as possible because Steven was going to set up something on his next turn. It didn't really matter what at that point, it seemed like.
And also, Herbie was lacking the Thermo Alchemist, which I feel like is a really important card in this matchup. Just being able to up the damage on each of your burn spells, especially early in the game. Because, like, you know, we saw there, once you reach the mid game, you're likely to get locked out by either pulse or circle protection.
Yeah, there's so many of the haymakers from Tron will just lock the game, and the curse was nice repeatable damage, but that's only 1 a turn, and like you're saying, the Thermal Alchemist would be 1 for every spell, so that makes sense that that's the card you'd kind of want in your opening hand here. How aggressively do you think Burn can mulligan for their call cards in this matchup? Because they're always a critical mass deck in all formats. You need enough lightning bolts to get them dead.
I don't particularly think the burn deck it mulligans very well, especially in Pauper. You are only on 8 creatures as opposed to other formats where you have something around 12 to 14 creatures. And once you take a creature out of an equation on a mulligan, you just have cards that deal damage. as a one-off, and it's pretty hard to win without a recurable source of damage, especially against a deck that is going to be able to gain some life.
Yeah. Yep. And that's definitely what Tron is going to try and do to stay in this. So, let's see if we can keep 7-land hands. Those are probably what both sides want to see. Feels like Tron can a little more aggressively mulligan because things like Circle of Protection are so important in this matchup, and they've got a lot of mana and lands.
And you do need to be able to cast your colored spells as the Tron deck, and there's like limited amount of lands that produce colored mana, and you need perhaps some filtering with your filter lands or artifacts. So I think Tron kind of mulligans fairly regularly and across all formats.
Yeah. When you are a 3-card combo and a bunch of ways to assemble, that seems like that's a wise move. I think Steven Flash just handed us 2 before mulliganing. I saw a ton of blue cards and maybe 1 land in there, so I think it was a pretty easy mulligan for him. But like you're saying, 1 land that makes white mana and a Circle of Protection red is a great 6-card hand here. So see if that's what he gets.
I am glad that we didn't just see Steven get run over 2 times in a row, or at least getting a 3rd game here. And yeah, with those powerful sideboard cards, this can really go either way.
He's definitely got the tool. Ooh, going down to 5. So that's where I always start getting worried when I'm going to 5 cards in any format. So if he's got Tranquil Cove, Tron Piece, Circle of Protection, and 2 blanks, we're happy. But other than that, it seems Burns gonna have a lot more resources going into this.
It also is, it's a different feeling when you're mulliganing to 5 or 6 when you're on the draw as opposed to when you're on the play. It's especially disheartening when you know your opponent's starting up even more cards than you.
Oh, this 5-card hand, he just showed us. I see 3 white bordered Tron pieces, and I'm pretty sure with his art, he's got natural Tron and just picked up another tower. So he's going to not have any total mana trouble, but can he get enough colored mana to get that pulse that's in his hand online and have targets for it? I guess he could target something in Louis' graveyard, but it's not likely he can put something there either. So mana not going to be the issue. Colored mana going to be the issue, it looks like, for Tron.
Louis just starting off basically with 3 variants of deal 3 damage.
So 3 of the 7 lightning bolts needed have showed up on that side. And let's see how many more he can get. But like you said, there's not a Thermal Alchemist in play yet, so they are just all 3 damage. He does need 7 of them. No, 4 of them have already showed up. And I think I saw a Skewer in hand, so yep. Okay, we got 5 of them. So this could be very quick. Yeah, Steven's got some things that could get him back into this with Natural Tron into like a prismatic, or oh, that's not the that's not the land drop of someone with a lot of confidence though. Yep.
Are we gonna get a turn 3 here? Which one makes the most mana was a question that Luis just asked.
So the sideboard cards coming into play, as you saw. Yeah, and getting mulligan. Though, luckily, we do know that his first draw, or Steven's first draw, was another tower, so he's not down on Tron, but that wasn't the problem last turn either. He just doesn't have a way to get colored mana out of this hand, it looks like.
If we had to untapped green mana source, that would be very strong, but I think that would be a windmill slam here, and it's not happening.
Yeah, definitely not as much thinking. I guess maybe you want to make sure you sequence things correctly, but let's see. At least 1 card on the other side of the well, okay, so we have the colored mana source online. Does he get to untap though? 3 life against the lightning bolt deck.
I'm kind of sweating, and Luis hasn't.
Oh. That's good later, but that's not dead yet. Okay, unless we're getting an epic slow roll here, which might make sense, given that you don't want to jam into untapped mana. And we got Tron back online. So now, I think Steven is really just trying to make sure he sequences this so that he doesn't get got by anything. And on the other side, Luis probably trying to look for that window when he can land the lethal burn spell.
If it is hanging out in hand, I'm curious what Luis's leftover is, because Luis did not play a land and hadn't played a creature the previous turn, so maybe Luis is sandbagging a land as a bluff, or has... if I had another Molten Rain, I probably would have just cast that, so I'm unsure what it could be.
Yeah, the Molten Rain would have kept him off the color mana source. And he doesn't go anything for end step, so either he's keeping running. Okay, just handing it back.
That is a pretty good strategy, even if you have multiple bolts, is you can just kind of wait until your opponent does something, because Steven's going to have to do something,
Hmm.
especially with this Alchemist hanging out.
Yeah, and now with 2 cards in hand, it gets scary. Okay, he's gonna go for it now. Go for the pulse on his tower. Did the draw step yield a lightning bolt? Tight play is getting the Alchemist online first, and the lightning bolt.
Oh,
It does it.
that's gonna do it. Okay, looks like Luis took care of that match in a lightning fast pace, we could say, and we have about half an hour left, so we're gonna go down and find another match to put on this feature match table, but we'll return in a couple minutes.